for almost 2 hours, JR. Thank you again for your time, man. Because
That's
I still have
crazy.
things here. I would love to. EOS has never been talked about in the realm of the handyman business, to my knowledge, which is awesome. We just self-implemented last year, and it's been a game changer. I'd love to hear your experience about EOS in your handyman business. And let me first explain to our audience. EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. It is very much an operating system that essentially bundles up your business and forces you to be organized and um, what's the word? Committed to what you're setting out to do this month, this quarter. So it keeps it very focused and essentially puts guardrails around our OCD, ADHD business owner minds. It forces things to be a little bit more organized in a very sensible like way. I'd love to hear, JR, like, what do you think about EOS? How have you applied it? When would you recommend it for a handyman business? I would love to hear your thoughts about your implementation of EOS.
Yeah. So EOS is another one of those tools that I've known about it for a long time. And we ran it in another business previously, but it's one of those that I I wanted to use it way before I was ready. Like I could not
Mhm.
wait to be able to use EOS. But and I'm gonna kind of give two sides of this opinion. You kind of need to be a certain size for it to really work the right way as it's presented, but the principles of it can be scaled back and used even as a solo owner operator. Um, so the main thing, especially in growth phase, I mean, when you're trying to grow and get things right, just the stuff we've rattled off today, there's millions of things you could work on. There's so many things. And if you're just like, well, I just want to work on leads, that's great. There's another 25 things inside of the leads bucket that you could work on to try to make it better. So you're trying to drill down to that one thing. So as an owner, there's just planes everywhere, right? The planes are just trying to land. And so this is just giving you a system to get them to the runway
Mm.
or to send them to the ocean and never come back again because some of them don't ever need to get anywhere near the runway ever.
Yeah.
Um, so what we did, we found it only worked once we had a true leadership team. So me, the admin slash ops, and then general manager. Um, and really, GM has really been more service manager up until I would argue that we still share some of the GM task a little bit on like cash flow decisions and things like that. So it really only worked until we had those three. And so the idea is we every quarter we pick rocks, goals, whatever you want to call them, that are needle moving up tasks for the business, needle moving goals. So it can't be like, hey, make better Google ads. Like, that's not very specific. It's not measurable. And that doesn't move the needle. So whatever it is, the big problem or big idea we're trying to solve, we start looking at what helps us get there. And then we identify the biggest one that gets that thing going in the right direction. And
Example that you talked about was speed to lead. How are we answering the phone
yeah,
24/7 and getting contact with these people? That's a great rock, a quarterly project of
yes.
how can we master speed to lead?
Yeah, it started off as the Rock actually started off as like better integration with AI. Well, that's not very specific. And so we kept looking
Mhm.
at, well, we went over to what we call the parking lot, which is where all the things go that we hadn't gotten to yet. And I would say we've self-implemented EOS. We've kind of put a little bit of our own flair to it, maybe with terminology, because we were already doing a mini version of it. And so we kind of kept
Yeah.
some of our terms. So we call I don't know what, I can't remember what they call it in the book, but we call it parking lot, where things are that we hadn't gotten to yet, ideas or
Mhm.
problems that are not so much issues, but they're things that we know would help the business. They kind of go over here till we're ready. And so when we start picking out rocks, that's what we're going for is, okay, we want to implement AI. What does AI solve in this problems list, in this parking lot list? And we started finding the ones that had like a high rating because we rank them all inside of a database. And
Mhm.
it was the speed to lead. It was just Whitney having to manage 7 different chat channels. It was um, trying to get more 5-star reviews to get more referrals. That's customer experience. So how do we make that better? And so all that kind of meshed into where Hatch came out of. That's where it came from. But what it does is like I'm relatively uninvolved in the day to day of steady. Like I don't know how many leads are coming through. I don't know the jobs are going on. And I don't know all that unless I happen to be sitting in the office, which is rare. Because if I'm in here, I'm the kid that talked in class. So like I'm going to talk to you if you're out here. So if I need to get work done, I can't really be here if people are here. I got to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so the Wednesday for that key three meeting, that EOS meeting, that's level 10. That is the touch point that I get for the week to get my finger on the pulse of the health of the company, and then any issues that have not been solved yet that need to be talked about with us three as a group, because they're all seeing different sides of it too. Colby's seeing the field side, he's dealing with the people. Whitney actually lives in Indiana, so she's completely remote. And so she's dealing with customers coming in, customer interaction. She pretty much runs her entire day by data, stuff that she sees on spreadsheets, on the credit cards, all the things. And so I kind of, in my head, I'm like, well, she's data. Colby's got more of the feels of the discussion, and I've got more of the practicality strategy piece of the decision. And so we marry those three, and that's how we work through our list. And so we sit down, look at a scorecard of KPIs that we've identified are the things that are healthy for us when we
Mhm.
watch, which is a lot of what I've already described, right? Leads, quotes, what the amount of close rate on site, cash flow for next week. And we do our meeting on Wednesday, by the way. So if cash looks light next week as far as on the books, we got 2 days to get more people roped into the system. We can spool up some organic marketing, try to get some jobs in.
Mm.
Um, then we go through our rocks, and each only one person can own. You only need to have one or two rocks as a person. We just try to make it be one, and then sometimes we'll share a rock. Two seats might
Yeah.
share a rock, but the company can't have but like two or three to be effective, really, maybe four. So we usually do three and an alternate. That way, in case one ends early, we can pick that alternate up and start working on it.
Gotcha.
And then we go through an issues list, which is little problems that have popped up, either that maybe they got solved during the week, but it's relevant to bring them up because it may have been a pattern, maybe with an
Hmm.
employee.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy underquoted the same type of job 4 times in a row. Somebody needs to coach him on that. But Whitney usually picks up on that. And that's what's cool is she's the data person of the group, even more so than me. And so she's watching data just because she likes data. And she may pick up on a pattern and go, ooh, that looks like that could be a problem. Somebody should say something. And that comes out during the whole key three.
Mm. I love that accountability that ownership that what's the word you used earlier in the conversation? Like you just empower.
Empowerment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just empowered to make decisions and to see things and act. And I absolutely love that about your leadership, JR. I think it's just huge for any growing company. Um, so to kind of put a like practically application, I think anyone listening, owner, operator, or bigger business, you should read the book Get a Grip. It's kind of the more narrative that there's a lot of takeaways. You can maybe find some
Yeah.
application. I think owner operators out there, core values, setting core values is very important in my opinion. And maybe one or two other kind of operational things just to check on every week. But practically, as a business gets more like the 400, 600, certainly 800,000 annual revenue, I think it's a great time to start to fully implement EOS to put some guardrails around your business with data, with these structured projects that make everything better every quarter with your rocks. It's just a really productive business growing system that kind of creates accountability and ownership for your whole team.
Yeah, and don't get and I think I mentioned in the very beginning of the EOS discussion, there's a way to do it if you're solo and you're at 250. The
Yeah.
principle of it being you can't work on everything at one time. Like if you're the only person doing everything, you have to go do work, you have to go do estimates, you have to invoice to get paid, you got to make deposits, you got to pay bills, like all that stuff's not negotiable. And all the things you would like to do, like get better marketing, make more content, all these things, they're all great. They're all good for your business. You got to pick one. And so I think what this would allow you to do if you read that book, even if you're not ready for it the whole way, it's you can start creating some kind of system that's like, okay, I've got these 5 things I'd like to do this year. This is the only one I've got. This is the one right now. And so I would piggyback that book and say, go read the One Thing by Gary Keller, where it's the one thing you can do right now that makes everything else kind of non-existent
Hmm.
or takes care of everything. And so that may be a great piggyback for the solo guy to go, okay, cool, I got this whole list. What's the one thing? If you're having a hard time figuring that out, read that book.